Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Edward Burr. I'm the president and CEO of Greenpoint Holdings. Greenpoint Holdings has a subsidiary that's a real estate development, a community development subsidiary called Greenpoint Communities, has another subsidiary called Greenpoint Homes. It builds single-family homes with a concentration in Florida.
All right, what made you decide to open up your own business?
I think decisions to open up your own business evolve. I started my career out at Coopers and Lybrand. My very first client was a real estate development client. I ended up being focused in the real estate industry and had a passion for it, and I fell in love with the master plan community side of the business and ultimately opened Landmar, which is my first company, in 1988.
All right, who or what was the inspiration to start your own business?
Inspirations come from lots of places. I don't think anyone's been inspired by a single event or a single person. My first partner, a mentor named Bill Merritt, was inspirational for me. My experience at the firm was inspirational, but a collective process of experiences led me to opening up my first company.
How much time and planning went in before you decided to open up your own business?
In the real estate development business, you usually operate around a community. As the opening of Landmar focused around the acquisition and development of a community. My first one was in Jacksonville, Florida. From the time I identified the land, contracted for the land, and ultimately purchased it and started developing it was about a 6-month period of time.
And how did you go about finding that location?
Networking to find land is always important. But you identify attractive land, then you have to do market analysis, you have to do the physical analysis of the land itself, the feasibility studies, and then ultimately arrange the financing to acquire it.
And how did you obtain the startup capital?
At that time there was a lot of banks doing financing, so we used bank financing. That first deal was financed with Chase Manhattan Bank. And then I had one other partner, myself and one other partner, who provided the equity and personal guarantees necessary to obtain the capital.
When you first started your company, how did you advertise and promote your business?
Well, when I first started the company, it was more traditional means of advertising. That certainly changed today. Back then we used newspaper, billboards, radio, very little TV advertising. It's not very efficient in the real estate development and home building world. Today it's dramatically different with the internet and the advent of the internet and social media. It is completely different today. We have websites and web pages, and we use social media to attract prospects. So it's entirely different today.
And what are the licensing requirements for your business?
Well, the real estate development business and home building business is highly regulated. As developers, we're licensed. As home builders, we're licensed. Our contractors are licensed. Obviously, every time that we buy a piece of land, we begin a development. All of the land, it has to be zoned and entitled, and the permits, which are like a license, have to be issued by the appropriate authorities. So we're highly regulated and highly licensed.
Do you use any information technology to help you run your business, and if so, what kind?
Well, we use a plethora of technology. I don't know that any business today can run without technology. Even the smallest floral shop or the barber shop on the corner, when they collect money and credit payments, we use information technology in our accounting and financial reporting. We certainly use it in our marketing and sales, and we use it in our scheduling and processing in our home building as well.
How do you select potential employees that you know you'll trust?
Well, Garrison, the most important thing for an entrepreneur to do and someone to grow their business is to select the right employees. It doesn't matter what your business is, if it all comes down to people, and almost always will come down to the people that are performing. And certainly the one quality that everyone should have in an employee is trust and integrity.
How do you train your newly hired employees?
We hire employees that we expect to be productive when they come in. But we usually about a 90-day training window to make sure they get up and perform at their excellent levels.
And what company incentives do you offer to your employees?
Well, incentives varies based on employees. Every employee has some bonus opportunity depending upon how the company is doing. And certainly our executive management team has opportunities to participate in the profits.
How do you evaluate your employees, and how often do you evaluate them?
Well, because the nature of our business, we have communities that start and stop, and so we're always in the evaluation process because we have many opportunities to have critique and input, but we formally do an evaluation once at the end of every calendar year.
What are the kind of day-to-day things you have to deal with being the CEO?
Well, being a CEO involves a lot of stuff, and I think in our industry it certainly involves strategic planning and fulfilling the strategic mission, thinking about the different challenges that the industry presents itself. And our industry isn't unique, but we have many challenges that change day to day. Certainly, ranging the capital and the financing, relations with our lenders, our funders, and our partners are very important.
When did you know that your business was going to be a success?
Well, the real estate development world and home building world have a lot of peaks and valleys. Shortly after I started the company in 1988, we had a reasonable amount of success that didn't last very long. We were tackled and attacked with the RTC collapse, the collapse of the financing industry, and the recession of the early 90s. And, we struggled through that. We were able to make it through and then hit levels of success again, and of course had some setbacks in the latest recession.
What is the worst experience you've had operating your own business?
Probably that first early 90s recession, the worst economic experience I've had. We've certainly had occasions when employees have disappointed us, and we've had to counsel those employees to seek other opportunities, and that's always very difficult as well.
What is the best advice you could give somebody starting out their own business?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing I think someone needs to ask themselves if they're going to start out their own business is, why are they doing it? I often hear someone say, I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for anybody else. Well, that's the wrong reason to ever start your own business, because the fact is you're always working for somebody else. If you have a customer, you're working to make that customer satisfied. If you have a lender or an investor or a partner, then you have to make sure your lenders and your investors and your partners and your shareholders are satisfied. And when you hire your first employee, you realize that you have an obligation to them. You have a responsibility to them to do what you can every day to make sure that that company is going to be successful, because you've now taken the responsibility of that employee and being able to provide for themselves and their family. So that's an obligation. So the worst reason to ever open up your own business is because you want to work for yourself, because I don't think that's ever the case. The best advice I can give is, open up a business, do something that you love, do it with passion, and be willing to work and stay committed to it a day in and day out, and ultimately see it through some of the tough times, because everybody has tough times in starting a business.
Is there anything else you would like to tell me about your business in general?
It's an exciting business. It's dynamic. We help people realize what we think is the American dream, owning a home or living in a community that comes to life. We develop streets and build houses and swimming pools and tennis courts, and they all look nice, but when they really have people living in them and using them, that's when it's a great satisfaction for me as a developer and home builder.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.